The victory of the Occupy movement, that is the topic of tonight's Byline. It was 3 years ago, next week, that the Occupy movement really got started. It started with Occupy Wall Street and then spread across North America. We had Occupy Toronto and Occupy Vancouver. There was Occupy Chicago, Portland, Cleveland. It went on and on. And here where I'm standing, there was Occupy Ottawa. People camped out in parks. They held marches and meetings. They demanded change. They demanded the one percenters, those rich folk, pay their fair share. Now, this was supposedly a grassroots reaction to the bailouts of big business, the fat cats that run the banks and the money managers after the recession. But of course, we know those bailouts happened in 2007 and 2008. And Occupy, some might have called it the left's answer to the Tea Party, they didn't show up until 3 years later in 2011. Let me be clear, Occupy was never about the grassroots. It was always about one thing, pushing a hard left redistribution agenda. Now I'm here in Confederation Park in Ottawa, where the Occupy camp was. They set up tents, and protesters that did that, they've long been cleared out along with all their gear. So why am I here? Why am I talking about Occupy? They're gone, aren't they? No, they aren't, unfortunately, and in many respects, they've won and continue to win when it comes to public policy. I remember around the time the camps were being cleared out, I gave a speech in Toronto to a business group. These were big money folks. They wanted to know what the political climate held for them and their clients. And I showed up and talked about Occupy. I told them the movement wasn't gone, and in the future it would cost them and their clients a lot of money. They were polite. They gave me a little bit of a golf clap. I'm quite sure they thought I was crazy. They could see that the camps were disappearing, and they were sure, well, that was it. It was all over. Of course, it wasn't over. In the next year, the Occupy rhetoric of making the rich pay their fair share, well, that helped Barack Obama win a second term.
When it comes to paying down the deficit and investing in our future, should we ask middle-class Americans to pay even more at a time when their budgets are already stretched to the breaking point? Or should we ask some of the wealthiest Americans to pay their fair share?
It's not just in the U.S. that they're still feeling this. Here at home, the Occupy rhetoric, the rhetoric of envy and division, it continues to sail on. In the New Brunswick election right now, the Liberals are set to take power from the PCs, if the polls are correct. And this week, Liberal leader Brian Gallant released his party's platform. It includes a plan to see New Brunswick raise $30 million annually off the top 1%. Here's a quote from their platform. A Liberal government would also increase taxes on New Brunswickers with net incomes greater than $150,000 per year. A new tax bracket for incomes between $150,000 and $250,000 would have a rate of 21%, same as Nova Scotia. Another tax bracket for incomes greater than $250,000 would have a rate of 25.75%, the same as in Quebec. Basically, Gallant is saying he will soak the rich to pay for his plans of higher government spending. There's a corporate tax hike as well, but I'm going to focus on the personal tax hike. The top federal income tax bracket for personal incomes is 29% on anything over $136,000. Gallant is saying that on top of that 29%, he'll charge another 21% of incomes above $150,000 and an additional 25.75% on anything over $250,000. What would that do to successful people in New Brunswick? It'll drive them out. Unfortunately, Gallant's not alone in his soak the rich mentality. Nova Scotia also imposes 21% on anything over $150,000. In British Columbia, it's 16.8% over $150,000. Quebec, anything over $100,000 gets 25.75% taken by the Quebec government. Now, Ontario had a single high-income surtax of 13.6 on anything over $514,000. That was brought in by the Liberals a couple years ago to get NDP support for their budget. But their latest budget has a new surtax. The provincial income tax will be 12.6 on anything between $150,000 and $220,000 and 13.6 on any income over $220,000. And by the way, this tax grab came in September 1st, but it's retroactive to January 1st. They're going to tax you on stuff you already paid income tax on. Alberta, by the way, one income tax bracket, 10% on whatever you earn. Doesn't matter. The rich still pay more because they earn more, but they're not being punished for getting ahead. Anyone with the slightest understanding of economics will understand that this new tax grab will hurt New Brunswick in the long term. As I said, people that want to get ahead, they're just going to get up and leave. Would you want to stay in a place that said, we will punish you for being successful? People that will take almost half your income and give it to others. Would you stay or look elsewhere? We've seen this happen recently in the corporate world with the Burger King Tim Hortons deal. Burger King is essentially buying Tim Hortons to turn themselves into a Canadian company and have a fictional head office in Oakville, Ontario, so they can pay lower Canadian taxes. So will ambitious New Brunswickers take this latest move as a sign they're not welcome? Will they move elsewhere? The province can't really afford this. And Stats Canada already pegs New Brunswick as having the lowest median family income of any province. 2012 median family income for all of Canada, $74,540. In New Brunswick, $65,910. That's a $9,000 difference. In fact, look at this chart and compare the soak the rich provinces to places like Alberta, where the median family income was $94,000, or Saskatchewan, where it was $80,000. It's staggering. This is what the politics of envy and division bring about. Sure, they sound good. It's why so many people bought into the socialism being peddled by the Occupy folks back in 2011. They like this idea of making the rich pay their fair share, completely unaware that the rich already pay the vast majority of taxes. But these slogans, these ideas, they didn't die when the camps were disbanded, and they don't help people. Despite what they claim, they don't help people. They drive the wealthy away or punish them so that they have less money to spend. So what, you're saying, they have less. Well, what does that mean? Well, maybe you had a lawn care company taking care of your lawn. Well, now you're going to fire them and have your kid do it. You get enough people doing that, and the lawn care company in your neighborhood has to lay someone off. That's someone at the bottom losing their job because someone else wanted to soak the rich. Raising taxes to supposedly redistribute wealth doesn't make everyone richer. It makes everyone poorer, except the tax collector. And that's the byline.